I have filed approximately 9,000 rejection notices in my career with the Keth-Sorvaan Transit Authority. I am not exaggerating for effect. The authority's own records confirm 9,214. I have rejected survey vessels with faulty transponder arrays, cargo haulers with inadequate rad shielding, deep corridor couriers who could not demonstrate basic waypoint literacy, and once, memorably, a Velcro-round pleasure barge whose pilot believed the debris corridor in Sector Aschenvel was a scenic route. None of those rejections have required me to revise my understanding of the physical laws governing transit navigation. The humans did. Her name was Dara Voss. She represented a small logistics firm. No military affiliation on manifest, no galactic authority backing, just a contract to move a medical supply shipment from the Aschenvel staging platform through the Class 33 debris corridor to the colony installations at Keth-Sorvaan. The Class 33 designation meant the corridor carried a particulate density that made most transit processors stall mid-calculation. It was not a route for the cautious or the under-equipped. The authority maintained a single certified approach, a low-arc spiral descent through the corridor's eastern margin, pre-plotted, authority-stamped, departure window fixed at 72-hour intervals. The approved approach took 11 days. Dara Voss arrived at the certification window on the morning of the 14th cycle and submitted a different approach. I was not on the certification panel that day. I was the intake clerk. My function was to receive submitted transit proposals, log them, stamp them with a provisional intake code, and route them to the examining board for review. I did this with her proposal the same as I did it with any other. What I noticed, and this is a minor thing, not a finding, simply a notation, was that her proposal was already finished when she set on my counter. Not a draft, not a preliminary sketch pending board feedback. The binding was pressed. The calculations were annotated in 2 colors of ink, corrections marked in the margins in a 3rd color, and each correction was initialed. The document had clearly been revised multiple times. It smelled faintly of something I later identified as the chemical adhesive used in the binding process, which cures over approximately 72 hours. She had been working on this for some time before she walked through my door. I logged it and routed it to the examining board. The board convened the following morning. I was present as the recording clerk. Senior examiner Keth-Sorvaan opened the proceedings, which is standard. He is a blue chitinous Keth-Sorvaan career examiner with 4 additional secondary limbs dedicated entirely to cross-referencing regulatory subsections, and he has held his position for 31 standard years. The Keth-Sorvaan do not approve of innovation. They did not evolve approving of innovation. They evolved approving of precision, repetition, and demonstrated adherence to established corridors. There's a reason the authority's approved approach through the Class 33 corridor has remained unchanged for 19 years. Senior examiner Keth-Sorvaan reviewed the human's proposal for 4 minutes and 11 seconds. I have a timestamp in my log. Then he set it down and stated that the proposed approach entered the corridor through its high-pressure northern margin at an angle that the board's transit modeling did not recognize as viable, using a velocity curve that the authority's simulation parameters marked as unstable, and that the proposal's estimated transit duration of 22 hours was, and I am quoting the official record, not a calculation, but a figure the applicant had apparently chosen because it pleased her. The board agreed. The proposal was rejected on structural grounds. Dara Voss was in the observation gallery. I watched her. She did not argue. She did not ask for the board's modeling data. She did not request a second hearing or submit a formal counterpetition. She thanked the examiner, collected her proposal from the return counter, and left. I noted her departure time. Habit. I filed the rejection notice. I moved to the next case. 6 days later, the pressure front came through. Pressure fronts in Class 33 corridors are not rare. The particulate density that makes the corridor hazardous also makes it responsive to gravitational fluctuations in the surrounding sector, and those fluctuations are unpredictable at a granular level. What we can model is the broad pattern. What we cannot model with any consistency is the timing. The front that came through on the 20th cycle was not a surprise in terms of type. It was a surprise in terms of severity. It destroyed the authorities' approved approach. Not disrupted, not complicated. The eastern margin of the corridor, where the low-arc spiral descent ran, collapsed under the particulate surge. The corridor did not close. It is a physical corridor, not a construct, but the approved approach ceased to exist as a navigable route. Vessels in transit at the time diverted to emergency waypoints. 3 suffered minor structural damage. The approved approach would require complete resurvey before it could be recertified. Estimated timeline, 4 to 7 months. I was not thinking about the human's proposal when I pulled the corridor's gate log. I was pulling it for liability documentation purposes to establish the timeline of the front for the authorities' incident report. This is standard procedure. I pulled the gate log, and I began reading through the transit record for the 6 days preceding the front. Daravas had transited the corridor 4 days before the front, the morning after the board's rejection. I read the entry 3 times before I was certain I had not misread it. The gate log for the northern margin entry, the high-pressure entry point the board had not recognized as viable, confirmed as single transit, logged at 0400 on the 15th cycle. Vessel registry matching the logistics firm's small courier. Duration of transit, 23 hours and 17 minutes, against the proposal's estimate of 22. The deviation was within normal tolerance for particulate interference. At the bottom of the gate log entry, in the field marked certification reference, there was no authority approval code. There was a 6-digit certification number I did not recognize and a note in the applicant field that read, DW 33-1109. Approved, self-certified. Reason, I checked. I looked up DW 33-1109. It is the Terran Logistics Registry's internal certification standard for Class 33 and above corridor transits. The Terran Registry does not require our approval to certify their own vessels for their own routes. It requires only that the vessel's pilot has completed an independent survey of the proposed route and filed the results with their registry. The Class 33 designation, our designation, the one that makes most transit processors stall mid-calculation, is a Keth-Sorvaan classification. The Terrans use it too, but their internal designation for the same corridor is different. Their internal designation is based on the survivability metrics of a Class 33 world's native fauna. Humans are from a Class 33 world. I sat with this information for a while. What I kept returning to was the binding on her proposal, the adhesive that cures in 72 hours. She had submitted a finished document, multiply revised, initialed, corrected, a document she had clearly completed days before she walked through my door. She had not come to the certification window hoping the board would approve her approach. She had come, I now understood, because the Terran Registry's self-certification process requires an attempt at the local authority's approval first, for insurance purposes, and her insurance provider would not cover the shipment without that documentation. She needed our rejection letter. She had our modeling data, not our proprietary data, our published data, the same parameters that senior examiner Keth-Sorvaan had used to call her velocity curve unstable. She had read it, calculated the pressure front's probable shape from the sector's gravitational fluctuation history, determined that the approved approach would be compromised within the following week, and plotted a route through the northern margin that would get her through the corridor before the front arrived. Then she had asked us to approve it, knowing we would not, because she needed the paperwork. Then she had filed her own certification and left at 0400 the next morning. The medical supplies reached Keth-Sorvaan Colony in 23 hours and 17 minutes. The colony's communications log shows the shipment confirmed received, no issues noted, standard delivery. I checked that too. I filed the incident report on the pressure front. In the section marked contributing factors, I wrote, none. In the section marked route recommendations, I wrote, pending resurvey. In the section marked anomalies noted, I wrote, one vessel transited northern margin in the window prior to the front. Approach was reviewed by this office on the 14th cycle and rejected on structural grounds. Approach proved viable. Recommend the board re-examine northern margin modeling parameters. Senior examiner Keth-Sorvaan has not responded to that memo. I have not followed up. I've been doing this work for long enough to know when a memo will be filed and when it will not be. What I know now, that I did not know on the morning of the 14th cycle, is that when a human hands you a document with the binding adhesive still curing, she is not asking you to solve the problem. She solved the problem before she walked through your door. She is asking you, very politely, to sign the form so she can leave. I will remember to look at the binding next time.